Dang, there's so many dang short stories in here. Gunter, I'm not giving up my daughter. An original short story written as a 2015 order bonus for the online store Animate, set around the time of Part 2, Volume 1. A troubled Gunter, upset that Mind's position as an apprentice blue shrine maiden is keeping her from visiting the gate, is reminded that he's not the only one feeling her absence. Author's note, Leckel also appears in the Part 4, Volume 4 chapter, Preventing Destructive Reconstruction. To those of you eager to know what he is like when he was a little less mature, here you are. Leckel. Who was Leckel? Let me know. How's your daughter, Captain? Leckel stopped me at the gate on my way to my shift. From what I knew, he was better than average at most, and Mind's crazy work had really inspired him to improve. These reasons were why Otto had him pinned as his replacement. Otto had decided that he was going to quit being a soldier in a few years' time to actually start working as a member of a merchant family. Who's asking, I shot back. I'm not going to let you marry either of them. What are you even talking about? They're a decade too young for me to even consider that. Let me get back on track. I'm asking since we haven't seen Mine at the gate all summer. I've been stuck helping Otto all alone. Otto's style was to offload his work on anyone capable of doing it, and Leckel was the only one good enough at math to make a good replacement. He normally got Mine to do the double-checking work when she came by, but that wasn't happening anymore. The temple had completely stolen her away. Otto was understandably devastated. Nobody could have seen it coming. A rich merchant hired Mine to work in the store, I explained. She's doing math for him so she doesn't have time to waste here at the gate. Also, don't forget how weak she is. We weren't telling anyone that Mine had joined the temple. Instead, we were saying she was being looked after by the Gilberta Company. It wasn't entirely untrue. She and Les were going there to sell the weird things they were making together. Man, it's been rough lately, Leckel sighed. Otto just keeps comparing me to your daughter. Mine was crazy smart. That was what people told me, at least. I personally wasn't sure how to measure something like that. What I did know was that Otto had turned down more helpers than I could count, each time groaning that teaching idiots is a waste of time. And after just a brief moment with Mine, that same man had practically begged me to let her be his assistant. I was well aware that Mine had negotiated with Otto, then earned the approval of a rich merchant and secured a position under him as an apprentice. Her achievements hadn't stopped there either. Now that she was in the temple, she was serving as the orphanage director and giving the high priest a hand with his work. I didn't know what made someone smart, but I did know my daughter was pretty up there. Yeah, the gods sure do love my daughter. She's special, unlike you. Yes! She's so much more special than you know. Given what we know so far. Who would have thought all this? But her being special was why the temple had gone after her in the first place. There were times now when I kind of resented the gods. You always exaggerate, Captain, but she really is special, and I really hate being compared to her. Yeah, it's a bit of a lofty gap in abilities. I could hardly blame him there. It must have been miserable staring at boards and paperwork while the other soldiers were training and standing guard. Mine and Otto were two of the rare few who actually liked that kind of work. If someone told me to do math all day, I'd want to quit my job for sure. It's not right for Otto to force all the work onto you, Leckel. I'll tell him to train some other soldiers too. I'll also try asking Mine if she knows any good tricks for teaching others. Effa had mentioned that Mine had trained with Lutz in math and reading over the winter to help him become an apprentice merchant. He'd apparently made a lot of progress in just one season. When I spoke to Mine, the first thing she said was that I needed to look for someone who liked paperwork the same as Otto. You'll want to find someone who lacks stamina and wants to do nothing but bookwork like me. Guards brimming of passion for building muscle and protecting the city will never be good at paperwork. I'm sure they struggle enough at finding motivation to study. At the end of the day, you can't force people to learn. It'd be nice if we could just hire Grey Priests since they're good at math and used to dealing with nobles, but oh well. Grey Priests could most likely get a job at the gate with my recommendation, but they didn't know anything about life out here. They lived in a completely separate world, and the last thing I needed was to look after a bunch of guys who didn't even know enough about the lower city to buy from stalls. As you saw their skills sound, hiring them seems pretty dang tough, I murmured, remembering how their eyes would dart all over the place as they walked through the city, and the way they'd recoil from shouts and arguments. They weren't bad people, but they couldn't work at the gate, even if they were doing nothing but paperwork. The lower city would eat them alive. Mine smiled. It might not be possible now, but I hope that in 10 or 20 years, it becomes normal for orphans to lead the temple. Maybe they could even seek employment in the lower city. She was wearing the expression of an orphanage director thinking about her orphans' futures, and I could suddenly feel the vast gap that had opened up between us. She was getting absorbed into the temple, into a world I couldn't enter. I instinctively pulled her into a tight hug. I'm not giving up my daughter, not to the temple or the gods. Okay, Thule, studying literature and picture books. An original short story written for a T.O. Books crossover in 2016, set around the time of Part 2, Volume 2. After helping Mine put together a picture book Bible from the temple, Tuli decides that she wants to learn to read. She starts practicing on a stone slate, but progress is slow. I think we've already done this one. Right? I don't know. Tuli gets really weirded out by Mine's perception of value, and understandably so. Money is regarded very differently in the lower city. But, give me a book for helping, please. I want to learn to read too, I said, having worked up the courage after Mine asked me to help sew together some papers. I would be going to the orphanage more and more, and the last thing I wanted was to feel like the only person in the world who couldn't read or write. I mean, not knowing how to read is supposed to be normal, but everyone I know seems to be able to read and write. Mine could do both, of course. Even Dad could, since he was worked as a guard. It used to be that he couldn't write very well, even though he knew how to read, but when he found out Mine had started to learn from Otto, he had taken up studying on his own to maintain his pride as a father, of course. Lutz had learned to read just last winter, having been taught by Mine so he could become an apprentice merchant, but now he was good enough to read contracts like they were nothing at all. It was so impressive that Mrs. Carla bragged about it all the time. Mrs. Karina also knew how to write since she made notes on the board she used for work. With my aim being to one day join her workforce, I needed to learn to read and write too. And above all else, I didn't want Mine and Lutz to leave me behind. This is a stone slate. You hold it like this. Oh, not like that, Tuli. You can't grip it like that, Mine said. My lesson started with me holding a white slate pen and trying to draw lines on the stone slate in front of me. Learning to write actual letters was apparently still a bit too advanced for me right now. I held the pen as Mine instructed and tried drawing a line just as she demonstrated, but for some reason I couldn't put enough force into it. The line wasn't even remotely straight either. It was weird, thin, and wobbled around all over the place. Just like there's a right way to hold a needle, there's a right way to hold a pen, Mine explained. You can draw lines no matter how you hold them, but if you don't learn to hold them correctly, you'll mash their tips to pieces. I kept drawing lines, making sure I was holding the pen in the way that made it hard to use force, but they still didn't end up straight. Mine was doing it so easily, too. Keep trying no matter how much you're struggling, she said. If you can't draw straight lines or smooth curves, you won't be able to sketch clothing designs. I was even having to practice reading letters in between writing sessions. Once you've memorized the spoken text, follow along the letters with your eyes. Soon enough, you'll be able to write them yourself. You still got a long time before you need to go to Karina's workshop, so you don't need to rush as Lutz did. But it still took Lutz over half a year, right? I want to ask to move to Mrs. Karina's workshop, so I can't waste any time. Lahan's contracts lasted 3 years, and any arrangements to move workshops needed to be made in advance. That only gave me a year of wiggle room at most. A year is more than enough. You should try to actually enjoy the process too, Mine said with a smile. If you start to hate books and letters, you'll never pick up any of this stuff. Mr. Otto's struggling right now because all the apprentices who are forced into learning aren't remembering a thing. As she spoke, she spread out the pages of the bio picture book for kids. The God of Darkness spent a staggeringly long time alone, she read, tracing her finger along the words so I could follow along. The pure joy in her expression was unmistakable, and there was a sparkle in her golden moon-like eyes. The God of Darkness spent a staggeringly long time alone, I repeated the words to myself, watching as mine more or less melted in bliss. I couldn't recognize the letters yet, so the most I could do was repeat what she said. Right, good. Next line. The Goddess of Light appeared next to the solitary God of Darkness, brightening his surroundings with light. In the story, the God of Darkness and the Goddess of Light met and got married. Then they had 4 children, the Goddess of Water, the God of Fire, the Goddess of Wind, and the Goddess of Earth. The first to be born was Flutrain, the Goddess of Water, Flutrain has the power to heal and purify. I continued repeating the contents of the book back to Mine. Once they were done, I returned to drawing lines on the slate. Great, Mine said. Now that you can draw lines that smoothly, I think you can move on to writing letters. After much practice drawing individual lines, I finally started to learn actual letters. Mine first taught me to write my name. You'll be using your name the most, after all. Lutz had to write his on a contract when he joined the Gilberta Company. If you want to join Karina's workshop, you'll probably have to do the same. Wait, really? You should have said that earlier. Drawing lines was hard enough, so it made sense that memorizing all the letters was even harder. Lutz had memorized them all over the winter, but I wasn't sure I could manage that in time for when I needed to ask Mrs. Karina whether I could join her workshop. I was getting super nervous. I wrote my name while carefully looking at the example Mine had provided. She went on to teach me her own name, the names of everyone in our family, the names of my friends, Mrs. Karina's name, and how to write the Gilberta Company. Oh, Lutz is here, Mine said. I need to get going. She was heading to the temple almost every day for winter preparations, and unlike most apprentices, she didn't get every other day off. She really is going there as much as she can, even though she gets sick and bedridden so often. I kept on, transcribing the text from the picture book at mine's instruction. A short while later, I heard a quiet thud. I looked up and saw Mom with her big belly sitting a cup of water on the table. I see you're working hard, honey. This is super hard. It's crazy that Let's learned all this over the winter, but it's even crazier that mine learned them all while helping with math at the gate. I wasn't exactly sure when it happened, but mine had mentioned helping Mr. Otto teach the apprentices at the gate. In other words, she was already educating others less than a year after she had gone there the first time. I hadn't really understood it at the time, but now I knew how impossible it really was. That reminds me of when I was a little girl. My father made me help out at the gate, too. Your father, Mom? You mean Granddad? That's right, he was a gate commander. You know how nobles sometimes have meetings at that one soldier meeting room? He taught me to prepare tea and speak properly there. He never taught me my letters, though, since I didn't have any real use for them. Grandma and Granddad were both gone now. Mom didn't talk about them much. If mine had kept helping out at the gate and doing her writing at home instead of going to the temple, I'm sure she would have been taught to prepare tea for meetings just as I was. I can't see mine actually managing to boil water properly, I mused aloud. She couldn't even draw water from the well, let alone make tea. Mom and I couldn't help but laugh as we tried to picture it, but it wasn't long before my eyes dropped back down to the slate. Mom, want to learn letters too? We can learn at the same time. I'm a bit busy making the baby's clothes and diapers, so maybe another day. You could teach me in the winter if we have the time. What, you want me to teach you? I asked, blinking in surprise. Mom replied with a mischievous smile. Be sure to learn well so you can help me out. Okay, I'll do my best. I was so happy to know Mom was willing to rely on me that I felt even more motivated than before, and so with the fire lit under me, I worked even harder of studying, until a certain question came to mind. Just how much is this book worth, anyway? I know the hairpins I made were being sold at a high price, so when mine came back from the temple contemplating about the next one, I took the opportunity to ask about the book. We made it at the workshop, so the base cost isn't very high, so I guess it would go for about 1 small gold and 8 large silver in the store? What? I recoiled in surprise, my eyes floating between mine and the picture book. I couldn't believe she had brought something so valuable home with her, and it was almost unthinkable that she wanted to make even more of them. I want to make them a little more affordable, but plant paper is still expensive, and ink is a real bottleneck. With Benno being so forceful about securing profit, I imagine it'll be a while before the price goes down. Mine seemed focused about how to reduce the price, but that wasn't at all what I meant. This isn't something we should be keeping here at home, right? I shouldn't be studying with something so expensive. What are you talking about, Thule? I made it as an educational resource to help children learn to read, Mine said. She looked utterly confused, but I was the one who was really bewildered. Mine apparently wasn't bothered about leaving something worth almost 2 small golds here in the house, and she was fine with letting both me and the soon-to-be born baby use it. I had never thought that the picture book was worth so much money. The blood drained from my face when I thought about how carelessly I'd been handling it. Mine, can books be washed? No, Thule, don't wash the book. The paper will get ruined if you soak it in water. Don't wash it no matter what. Oh, then how do you clean it when it gets dirty? I glanced at the book and noticed there was already some white smears on its pages from the dust of my slate pen. That sent a jolt of panic through me, but mine just gave a casual smile. It's best not to get them dirty in the first place, but it doesn't really matter that much if you do. Really, don't worry about it. How can I not worry when they're so expensive? I exclaimed. At this point, I was scared to even touch the picture book. What should I do? I shouldn't have asked for one of my own. Dude, if she's planning on making more of them, I don't think it'd be that big a deal if one got a little messy. It ain't that big a deal as long as you take care of it. I am thinking that some of these are probably from the fan book I had done. I'll have to look at it. But, yeah. A previously unpublished chapter that takes place between Part 2, Volume 4, and Part 3, Volume 1, and was originally posted online as part of a collection of disconnected short stories. After imprisoning Veronica and throwing the castle into chaos, Sylvester sends Riarda a summons. He wants her to serve Rosemine, his soon-to-be adopted daughter. We received a lot of very passionate requests for a Riarda short story. As a result, to celebrate the release of Part 3, Volume 4, I wrote this chapter about the events leading up to her becoming Rosemine's head attendant. In an event that shook Ehrenfest to its very core, Lord Veronica imprisoned his own mother, Lady Veronica. He had disappeared from the Archduke conference with his guard, and I commanded Lord Karlstedt in tow. Everything had come so suddenly that not even Lord Sylvester's own retainers had expected it. The castle was now in chaos, understandably so, and it was in the midst of this turmoil that I received a summons from Lord Sylvester. I stared at the yellow face stone which had just moments ago been an ordnance. What in the world does he wish to discuss with me? I wondered aloud. Riarda, learn as much as you can of the Ob's intentions. We cannot do our jobs properly if the situation remains so unpredictable. It was obvious why the other retainers were so concerned. At no point prior to the event had Lord Sylvester suggested that he might carry out such an act, and without consulting any of them. Well, I mean, considering that they had to essentially make a trap, whatever. Considering that Lord Karstead had already known the plan, that the incident had occurred in the temple of all places, and that the Knight's Order had moved as swiftly as it did, we could predict that Lady Veronica's imprisonment was part of a hidden plot between Lord Sylvester, Lord Karstead, and my boy Ferdinand. That some things were not to be done in secret. I will need to scold all three of them. Put more thought into how your actions will impact those around you. It was true that Lady Veronica should never have used the Ob seal without permission and for personal gain, and perhaps it was natural that she had be punished for it. The problem was that Lord Sylvester had laid none of the required groundwork. He had escalated the situation by involving a noble from another duchy and subsequently thrown Ehrenfest into chaos. A lecture on finding more elegant solutions was definitely needed. I mean, well, you can't really lay the groundwork on this one because Veronica's probably got spies everywhere, and if she had found out that he was planning this, she would have tried to avoid it, essentially. So best not to lay the groundwork to let a criminal potentially avoid getting captured. You know? Lord Sylvester, it is Riarda I called. I have arrived at your summons. I entered the room to find it had already been cleared of everyone except Lord Karstead, Lady Avara, and Lord Sylvester himself. A sound-blocking magic tool was handed to me, revealing that this was an extraordinarily secretive discussion. And what I was told next made me doubt my ears. You were adopting a daughter? That's right, Karsted's daughter to be precise. She's due to be baptized this summer. Lord Karstead does not have a daughter, does he? I asked, looking between him and Lady Avara. Or could this be a child that even I am unaware of? Lord Karstead put on an unassuming expression and said, she's the daughter of my deceased third wife, Rosemary. It was a lie. As the woman who had raised him, I could tell in an instant. Ha ha ha! You can't put anything past her! Lady Riarda, her origin does not matter, Lady Avara said. She will become my daughter upon being baptized. So she knows. Okay, this is where, if I had read this from the start, I would have known that she'd known from the start. Okay. Her expression was stiff, but the resolve in her eyes made it clear that this decision had reached a level that could no longer be contested. Still, as Lord Sylvester's former nurse and educator, I needed to query him on these matters. There were few who could question the Ob directly. Lord Sylvester, would you throw the castle into even further chaos? Putting more thought into how your actions will impact those around you. Rather than adopting a daughter now, you should be thinking about Lord Wolfrey, who was raised by Lady Veronica, and what these recent developments mean for him. If you were intending to adopt a daughter to strengthen his position, can that not wait until they are about to enter the Royal Academy? Lord Sylvester already had 3 children with Lady Florencia, and it was clear as day that adopting a Lyesgang noble here and now would throw the nobility into further disarray. The current state of disorder needed to be dealt with first. Tell me, what did Lady Florencia say about adopting a daughter now of all times, I asked. The same thing as you, Lord Sylvester replied. She demanded to know what I was thinking, and she wasn't nice about it. But the decision to adopt is final. I won't be changing my mind. He's already kind of it's already happened anyway, so you can't really undo it. Well, technically he could, because, I mean, that's what they're planning on doing at the Archduke Conference, but I don't know what'll happen with this whole next volume, but whatever. His dark green eyes weren't wavering in the slightest. I was well aware that once Lord Sylvester made a decision, he couldn't be stopped. He was pursuing this adoption even against the wishes of his beloved Lady Florencia, so what hope did I have of changing his mind? My only option at this point was to learn as much about the subject as I could in the hope of minimizing the damage. I see. Then let me ask, what manner of girl is this soon-to-be daughter of yours? For you to be adopting her at the height of such a turbulent period, then there must be something special about her. I made sure to put my hand on my hips as I asked, and fixed Lord Sylvester with a glare that said, don't even think about lying. Lord Sylvester paused for a moment, then glanced at Lord Karstead. She's rich with mana, has knowledge from the world of the gods, and is even considering the state of Ehrenfest. Be serious, please. I am. She boasts enough mana to increase crop yields all across the central district, and is bringing new industries to Ehrenfest. It's already been decided that she will be made the new High Bishop, with Ferdinand supporting her as the High Priest. She was raised in the temple, however, so she isn't the slightest bit knowledgeable about the ways of noble society. That's why I want you to be her head attendant. You are adopting a girl who was raised in the temple and making her the High Bishop, I exclaimed, feeling lightheaded in the face of Lord Sylvester's blasé attitude. If you have this child enter the castle, she will need to endure great disdain and merciless rumors. You must understand that much, and the very idea of putting a girl who has yet to be baptized through such misery. Lord Karstead, this is your own daughter. Is it not your duty to protect her? Just thinking about how unstable her position was going to be, and almost about all the nobles who would treat her with such contempt, sent a chill down my spine, but no matter how fiercely I barked, Lord Sylvester and Lord Karstedt simply exchanged glances. They showed no signs of budging. She didn't even question about how she has knowledge from the world of the gods. She didn't even question that. That should have been your first question there. Like, what do you mean by that? That would have been my first question. The fact is, Riarda, Lord Karstedt began, there are things about Rosemine can only protect through this adoption, no matter how much it hurts her or how merciless the nobles may be. Lord Sylvester continued. Rosemine chose to be adopted to protect what she cares about. I won't tell her to abandon it all when she already came so far. Even keeping her in the temple as the High Bishop is for our own sake. It's better for her to have something trying her there, or at least that was what Ferdinand said. From their statements, I was able to draw a few conclusions. This girl was trying to protect something or someone in the temple, and this thing or person she treasured so deeply had been intimately involved in the recent incident there. As many understood it, an archnoble from another duchy had caused a stir. This child presumably needed the status of an archducal family member to resolve the matter smoothly. Riarda, on top of all the ills of the world, she has Ferdinand as her guardian, Lord Sylvester stressed. There's no one else I can trust with this job. Can I count on you? My boy Ferdinand received cruel abuse at the hands of Lady Veronica, and there were few to whom he could entrust someone under his protection. In this situation, I was the only person who met all of the necessary conditions. I was at the behest of the Archduke, a natural pick for looking after Lord Karstedt's daughter, and someone my boy Ferdinand could rely on. I understood, I said. I shall accept this duty. This means you'll have looked after 2 consecutive generations for Riarda, Lord Karstedt remarked with a smile. Thank you. Lady Elvira looked just as relieved and added, I thank you ever so much, Lady Riarda. Their expression made their worry for this young lady coming out to the castle all too clear. I would need to do everything in my power to ensure the temple child was as safe in the castle as possible. Lady Elvira, there's no need to be so formal with me, I said. Please just call me Riarda from now on. I'm going to be your daughter's attendant, after all. Lady Rosemine's adoption was going to take place during the upcoming summer baptism, so we retainers were all very busy preparing the chambers. For children of the Archduke raised in the castle, this process was done gradually as an opportunity for them to get used to using their retinue. Lady Rosemine's situation was unique, however. We could not have enough time to prepare her room if we waited until she arrived at the castle, so we needed the help of her mother, Lady Elvira, to be ready when it became time to welcome her. Lady Elvira, might you tell me Lady Rosemine's preferences, I asked. She seems to have grown to like her current chamber, so something of the same style would be preferable. Perhaps it will bring her some relief? Ah, she is still midway through her education. What kind of girl is she? I will ask for your thoughts because the opinions of men simply cannot be trusted on these matters. Yeah, sometimes the guys aren't going to be of any help. Lord Sylvester and Lord Karstedt only ever told me that Lady Rosemine was an exceedingly intelligent and equally a strange child. It was more than just that Saint of Aaronfest tomfoolery. They're not wrong about that one, but I still didn't have a firm grasp on her character. Just as Lord Ferdinand warned, Rosemine was unable to carry herself as an archnoble when she first came to our home. Since then, however, she has grown with startling speed. She has tremendous focus, and her teachers and I regularly find ourselves speechless. If she continues on her current pace, it will soon be impossible to tell that she was raised in the temple before her baptism. A hard worker with excellent skills, then. Indeed, Cornelia seems to find her presence somewhat inspiring. There is no mistaking the oddness of her character. Perhaps because she was raised in the temple, the way she approaches situations is very different from one would normally expect. At times, it was hard to tell what is running through her mind. If you pay very close attention, the logic on which she operates becomes clear, but it can be very difficult to unearth. It seems that Lord Sylvester's vague phrasing had not been an attempt at deception, as he said. Lady Rosemine was very talented, very diligent, and very strange girl who was nonetheless a hard worker. But what I found most surprising was that Lady Elvira had found out as much about her over such a short period, and her countenance was becoming more motherly by the day. I can tell from your words and the look on your face that you truly care for her, I said. It seems you have grown quite invested in this child, even though she is not your own. The atmosphere of our estate has changed considerably since Rosemine arrived. As I see it, she is my very adorable daughter, especially since Lord Ferdinand is so very concerned for her. Lady Elvira gave a refined laugh before elaborating. He visits her every couple of days, I repeated. Indeed, it has been every 3 on occasion, but he always comes without fail. He eats dinner with us, questions her tutors about her progress, asks her whether there is anything she's struggling with, and then checks on her health. One might very well say he is taking Karstedt's place in these respects. I was aware of Lord Ferdinand protecting Rosemine, but I never would have imagined that he would check up on her so often. Yeah, Ferdinand. Oh boy, I can't wait to see all this animated. Yes! I can't wait. This is gonna be so good. I can't wait. From the sound of things, Lady Rosemine was rather attached to Ferdinand and relied on him considerably. It was certainly hard to believe. My boy has always kept his guard up around others, never allowing anyone to get close, yet here he was, being so openly considerate. To think he would be so attentive to a young child, I said. Just what did Lady Rosamond do to lower the barriers around his heart? He synchronized his thoughts with her to read her mind, and thus he got emotional. And I think that kind of did something to it, anyway, at least a little bit. Perhaps it is simply because she's so young and frail. She would die without a watchful eye looking after her, so he naturally filled the role. Lady Elvira went on to explain how often Lady Rosamond became unwell. Then she fell silent, placed a hand on her cheek and sighed. She is an exceptionally good girl. Severing her remaining ties to the temple and raising her as a normal noble would be ideal, but Lord Sylvester, Lord Karstedt, and Lord Ferdinand are all against it. I cannot help but feel they want her to have some critical weakness to ensure that one of Lady Florencia's children becomes the next Ob. One could assume Lady Elvira was saying that without some such weakness, Lady Rosamond had a chance of becoming the next Ob. For a female archduke candidate to obtain that seat, over men with a similar claim to it, she and her husband would need to be extraordinarily talented to overcome the unique disadvantage that female Obs inherently faced. It was not something I could easily swallow after seeing Lady Georgine weep at the unfairness of gender disparity. Lady Florencia has another son, I noted, one not raised by Lady Veronica. Yes, I am aware. Lady Florencia consulted me for advice regarding raising boys when he was born. Yeah, but a daughter belonging to Lord Karstedt and me will have the full support of the Lies gangs. Those whom Lady Veronica abused will rise up in full force and put Lady Rosamond in a position to become the next Ob if she so desires it. I could tell Lady Elvira was concerned about there being a battle for the seat of the Archduke, but I smiled and shook my head. I trust that Lord Sylvester and the others gave the situation a lot of very careful thought before deciding on the adoption. Ehrenfest's first wife has borne more than one son. Lady Rosamond will never become the next Ob. I wish I could share your confidence for Lady Florencia's sake, but Lady Rosamond is so abnormal and extraordinary that I find myself wondering what kind of an upbringing she must have had. It is almost uncanny. Well, she's had 2 different upbringings, her one on Earth, and the one as a commoner, so, I wonder if Riarda's gonna figure this out. Is she? Oh, that would be great if she could have figured it out and not said anything. Well, she is receiving an education from my boy Ferdinand. His strictness is surely the reason. He always holds those around him to the highest of standards and raises them to his level. I recalled when my son Justice resolved to give his name to Ferdinand in order to become his attendant. Ferdinand gave him all sorts of tasks and conditions to complete first, and I was sure he had done the same with this young child. He certainly does give her all sorts of assignments to do, Lady Elvira mused. That said, I believe they are essential to her future as a member of the archducal family. Rosamond takes it well, though. She says she does not mind as long as she can read books. I cannot help but pray that she does not get embroiled in any further conflict. Oh, boy, you have no idea. Lady Elvira and I continued to arrange the chambers as we spoke, and our conversation soon turned to Lady Rosamond's attendants. One such position was going to Audley, who was Lady Elvira's friend, apparently. Because of Lady Rosamond's connection to the temple, her other retainers were going to be selected with extreme care. One was often closer to those in one's service than to anyone else, so we could not risk someone untrustworthy being assigned to the role. Riarda, will you be attending the baptism ceremony? Elvira asked. Indeed, I wish to see what kind of person Lady Rosamond is with my own eyes. And so Audley and I went to Lady Rosamond's baptism. I wasn't going to be introduced as her attendant until she was brought to the castle, but Lord Karstedt and Lady Elvira had granted my desire to meet her ahead of time. But alas, disaster struck. Lord Wolfrid dragged Lady Rosamond away shortly into the introductions and ended up wounding her gravely. The ceremony was brought to a swift conclusion, meaning that I would not get to meet Lady Rosamond until our first exchange at the castle. Riarda, are you to be Rosamond's... That's right, I am Lord Sylvester personally asked me to look after her. My boy's reaction had come immediately after Norbert brought him and Lady Rosamond into the room to see me. I thought as much during her baptism, but Lady Rosamond truly looked young for her age. Her golden eyes were sparkling with curiosity as she looked at me and then up at Ferdinand. Lady Elvira had been exactly right when she said that the girl was attached to him. Oh, what a heartwarming sight it was. Lady Rosamond, this is Riarda, Norbert began, introducing me. She will be your head attendant here. I appreciate your service, Lady Rosamond said. She lowered into a curtsy, and her unbelievably glossy hair cascaded down her shoulders like a waterfall. Her every movement bespoke such considerate practice that I struggled to believe she was raised in the temple. Elvira was right. She was right about that. She had apparently only been on the level of a men noble when she first met with Lady Elvira, so I could guess that she had been working immensely hard to adjust to her new position as a member of the archducal family. Lady Rosamond was wearing a tense expression when she looked up again. My boy Ferdinand was also waiting my next words with some uneasiness. Oh my, he certainly has changed. I channeled my desire to welcome my new lady into a kind smile, and at once I noticed Ferdinand start to relax. I see that Lord Karstedt has raised you right. I always like to see someone who has such good manners, Lady Rosamond. I am Riarda. It will no doubt be a pleasure to serve you. Boop, boop. Oh, Hartman, here we go. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Oh, I think this is when he gets to see the baptism. A previously unpublished chapter that takes place near the start of Part 3, Volume 1, and was posted online as part of a collection of disconnected short stories. Hartman decides to attend Rosemine's baptism despite his misgivings about Audley being assigned to serve her. To his surprise, what he sees there changes him completely. Oh yeah! A short story was written to celebrate Suzaku-san's birthday. She's always so passionate when she speaks about Hartman, and many readers requested a short story about his one-sided first meeting with Rosemine, so I focused on just that. As it turned out, Suzaku-san actually likes Ferdinand more. Oops! Whoopsie! Wrong character! You recall that Lady Avara's child, Lady Rosamund, is being baptized this summer, yes? My mother asked me. She had just returned from a private tea party with Lady Avara, the Knight Commander's wife, and we were both holding sound-blocking magic tools. As it turns out, she is due to be adopted by the Archduke at the same time. I will be serving her in the castle. I spared our nearby attendants a glance and said, You? An attendant of Lady Avara's daughter? Mother was exceedingly good friends with Lady Avara, to the point that she had often taken me to Lady Avara's estate even before my baptism. Not once during any of those visits did I met a daughter of Lady Avara's, nor had Cornelius, who was in the same academic year as me, even ever indicated having a little sister. Which means this is not Lady Avara's child. In other words, she was presumably the daughter of Lord Karstedt's second or third wife, both men nobles and both members of the Veronica faction. I knew fragments of their situation through things Cornelius had let slip. This may be Lady Avara's request, but my own mother serving someone of such low status? I was overcome by displeasure. Mother must have noticed as she promptly began explaining the circumstances. I caught a glimpse of Lady Rosamine. While she was being educated, she is quite beautiful, as well as intelligent. I can understand why she is being adopted. Furthermore, as Lady Avara's daughter, if she is taken in by the Archduke, then she will certainly become the hope of the Liesgang nobles. Lady Rosamund was searching for attendants now that her adoption had been decided, but I found this all much too suspicious. No reason whatsoever for the Ob to take in a child from a Liesgang noble. There had to be other, more significant circumstances that were being kept from us. I also found it hard to believe that Mother was acting by choice. She hadn't consulted my father, for one thing. This feels too careless for you, Mother, I said. There's clearly something happening behind the scenes. Indeed, and my decision to help welcome Lady Rosamund to the castle will afford me a peek behind the curtain. The castle has been changing drastically ever since Lady Veronica's imprisonment, and Lord Lebrecht, more than anyone, wishes to know what is going on beyond that which those working for Lady Florencia can learn. Father does. That is to say, this is something unknown even to Lady Florencia, the first wife of Ehrenfest? I crossed my arms, conscious that this adoption was the amalgamation of many desires and much authority. Furthermore, my mother continued, this is an important time for the Liesgang faction, for whether or not we regain our former influence is at stake. Everything rests on this one chance, and so an opportunity to become the retainer of an archducal family member is very much welcome. I see. That is true, I replied with a nod, my attention now focused outside the window. Factions this, influence that, it's all so foolish. Going to the Royal Academy made reality painfully clear, the reality of Ehrenfest's position in Jürgenschmidt and how the Digi saw us. We had risen to the ranks somewhat after staying neutral during the Civil War, but now we were looked down upon harshly. The winners scorned us for not contributing in the battle, while the losers resented us for having attained a higher position through no merit of our own. What I find strangest of all is that our adults do not realize how empty our duchy's influence is to begin with. Despite how meaningless Ehrenfest was in the grand scheme of things, Mother was attempting to serve a girl born from a men noble for the sake of Father and his faction. It was all so foolish that it deserved nothing more than a derisive snort. Baptism ceremonies generally took place at the start of the season, but not Lady Rosemine's. Hers was being held in an awkward point between the start of summer and the time when nobles were gathering in the nobles' quarter for the Starbein ceremony. More than 200 nobles were gathered at Lord Karstedt's estate, with countless other members of the Liesgang faction among them. The high turnout was no surprise considering that baptism ceremonies served the important purpose of debuting children to noble society. The archducal couple was born here as well in preparation for the upcoming adoption, as was Lord Wolfrid, their son. There were many nobles of the Veronica faction among the retainers flocking around the Archduke and the young lord, which created a very tense atmosphere. I heard from Lady Avara that you will also be serving Lady Rose, my mother said to Lady Riarda. Indeed, she replied, because of an order from Lord Sylvester, that is. That gave me a moment of pause. Lady Riarda had educated Lord Karstedt and served as the current Archduke's nurse when he was growing up. It seems to me that this Lady Rosamund is being upheld as someone of great importance. What in the world is the Ob thinking? Not to mention, my boy Ferdinand expects great things from her, Lady Biarda continued. He says the future growth of our duchy will rest squarely on her shoulders. The hopes being pinned on this pre-baptism child are so high, in fact, that I find myself worrying about her more than anything. We watched Lord Ferdinand climb the stage as the High Priest. He had personally endured Lady Veronica's wrath for so long, and was ultimately chastened to the temple despite being a member of the Archducal family. Does he have something to do with this adoption? Lord Ferdinand and I never officially met, but the stories about him from my elder brother had told me from his time in the Royal Academy indicated that he was a man of extraordinary talent. He had entered the temple to signal his departure from noble politics, but his cunning nature made it plausible that he had always planned to depose Lady Veronica and return like this. Of course, that was no more than speculation. Lady Rosamund shall now enter. Once Lord Ferdinand had ensured all the preparations were complete, the attendants of the estate opened the door. Lord Karsten and Lady Elvira entered as the parents of the one to be baptized, followed by Lady Rosamund herself. She did not recoil in the face of 200 noble gazes, nor did she look around curiously. Instead, she merely continued forward, moving with grace and while wearing a gentle smile. So this is Lady Rosamund. Her long hair swayed with each step. It was as dark as the night sky, while at the same time as radiant as the stars themselves, and adorned with an ornament I did not recognize. As I had heard, she was a rather pretty child with balanced features, and the elegance with which she had carried herself suggested she had been well trained, despite her noble mother and temple upbringing. The rumors about Lady Elvira giving her a strict education in preparation for today were sure to be true. As were the tutor's remarks that the girl was exceptional. She comes across entirely like an archnoble. I struck Cornelius with a curious look and saw that he was anxiously watching Lady Rosamund. He must have been very worried about her. Despite the loathing he felt for his father's second and third wives, he did not seem at all opposed to accepting this girl as his own little sister, and understandably so, for he had no reason to be embarrassed about someone so refined. Strange, whatever's going on here, it must be something significant. I watched dispassionately as Lady Rosamund grabbed a magic tool and made it shine, indicating that she had enough mana to be recognized as an archnoble. I applauded with everyone else, but it was scarcely an achievement. She had proven that she could carry herself as an archnoble, but no part of the ceremony had explained why the Ob desired to adopt her. Congratulations, Rosamund, Lord Ferdinand said. You are now officially recognized as Karstedt's daughter. A new child has been born to Ehrenfest. There was much applause, during which Lord Karstedt took the stage and raised a blue face stone ring high above his head. I give this ring to Rosamund, now recognized as my child by society and the gods, he declared, and then slipped it onto her finger. It was now time for the priest on stage, Lord Ferdinand in this case, to do his part. He granted Lady Rosamund a blessing from Leidenschaft, notably by using his own ring. Other priests would have to rely on divine instruments brought from the temple. As I compared the events to my own baptism, Lady Rosamund gave Lord Ferdinand her thanks. She would now bless him in turn, and the ceremony would end. But she instead turned to the audience. I pray that Leidenschaft, the god of fire, blesses all those in attendance, and the high priest for celebrating my baptism. Everyone exchanged glances in response at the unusual development, while a blue light swelled within Lady Rosamund's ring. What? As it turned out, her offer to bless all those in attendance had not been insincere. Blue light flew up into the air, spun around, then scattered around the grand ball like blessed rain. It was a turn of events that I never would have predicted. Just what is this? What in the world? Came a similar mutter from the audience. She produced that much light? Just how much mana did she have packed into that small body of hers? A lot. Way more than anybody in this dang country. Maybe. Except maybe Ferdinand. This surprise was only natural. The return blessing was supposed to go with the priest, and the priest alone, not everyone in attendance. But given how calm Lord Karsten and Lord Ferdinand both looked, Lady Rosamund had not made a mistake. They had probably wanted to demonstrate her potential, and her being a child who hadn't yet learned to compress her mana made it all the more impressive. It wasn't her mana capacity that surprised me, though. It was abnormal to be sure, but what had left me in awe was the sheer beauty of the spectacle. I could not explain why it was different from any blessing I had seen before. The blue light seemed to sparkle with life as though it were truly from the gods themselves. Never before have I seen light like this. A sudden warmth spread through my chest. The blessings given during baptism ceremonies were usually so mundane, but this was different. The ease with which Lady Rosamund had granted a blessing that would have made most adult nobles wince made her seem like a genuine agent of the gods. But why? Why is Lady Rosamund's blessing so beautiful? I was still enamored of this newfound beauty when Ob Ehrenfest went onto the stage and announced the adoption. The Ob is adopting her? I was not informed. What is the meaning of this? Judging by the response, the news truly had been a secret. The hall immediately started to buzz like a struck hornet's nest, but after witnessing that extraordinary event, I saw no reason for the commotion. It was obvious why the Ob would want her in the Archducal family. His tales of her saintly deeds were even more wonderful. I needed to hear more of them. He did well to find her in the temple of all places. My evaluation of the Archduke had become a little more favorable. I scanned my surroundings. There were a great many nobles in attendance. They would all be greeting Lady Rosamund in turn. I already knew from my own baptism that it was impossible to memorize so many faces. Especially when these first meetings were so brief. Only those who left a meaningful impression would be remembered. My mother would be introduced as her future attendant, and my father as Lady Florencia's retainer. Perhaps that would make me stick out in her mind? No sooner had that thought crossed my mind than I felt a little strange. This was the first time I'd ever been so interested in another person. I was likely more surprised by this change of heart than anyone. The first people due to be introduced to Lady Rosamund were her guard knights, who would be accompanying her tomorrow. Next would be the retainers of the archducal couple, whom she would meet with often, then the retainers who would start serving her once she moved to the castle. Lady Riarda and my mother included. Her family members, including Lord Bonifacius, would then follow, and that was when I would get my chance to shine. Nothing fun's ever going to happen here. Let's go play. Follow me. But as I was eagerly awaiting my introduction, Lord Wolfrid took Lady Rosamund by the arm and dragged her out of the hall. She did not return. As it turned out, the sickly Lady Rosamund had not been able to keep up with the young lord. She had fallen unconscious and sustained quite serious injuries, as Lord Ferdinand had cast healing magic on her before carrying her back to her chambers. Was hurt? I need to be careful about Lord Wolfrid. I gazed down at my hand, and what had felt like the blink of an eye, I had started to view Lord Wolfrid as an enemy. I suppose I will need to drag him down, so that Lady Rosamund may become the ob. Oh no, this is where it started! Oh shit. Christelle? Who is Christelle? Okay. I'll have to do a little bit of editing, but this should be fine. I will see you guys in the next one.